What was it that inspired you to start making those power cookies?
What really inspired me is, well, I've always been into food and nutrition since I was a kid growing up, and I was a sporty kid. And I always made these power cookies, and I loved, I was always into nutrition and health, and I was active, and I'd make these power cookies, and it was kind of a fun thing. Like over the years, I'd use them for my own snacking, but I would also, if it was a special occasion or Christmas, or if I needed to suck up to one of my teachers, I would make a batch of cookies, and it was like a really nice way to give something to friends and family and colleagues. And so it was just something that I've always done over the years. And everyone had always said, oh, these are really good, you should sell them. And so that was in the back of my mind for a long time, kind of simmering away, if you will. And then I was traveling and ended up in New Zealand. I came to do the coast to coast and decided that I wanted to stay. And I thought, well, I didn't really want to go back to being a dietitian. I was working in a clinical setting, and I didn't really want to work in a hospital anymore. And I was like, well, why don't I start selling my power cookies? Because I was making them a lot when I first came here, because I'd bring them to the guys at the bike shops and stuff, because they were helping me with my racing. And so after my first Coast to Coast, I went and saw Robin Judkins. He's the creator of the Coast to Coast, and he's kind of this eccentric character.
I know the guy.
And I brought him some power cookies. And I was like, I'm thinking of starting this as a business. What do you think? And he had the cookies, and he's like, oh, these are bloody brilliant. Yeah, you should do it. So it literally started from there. So that was the middle of February 2004. And I started making them in my kitchen. I'd use my flatmates as guinea pigs, and just sort of getting the recipe standardized. And I was basically inspired by my friends and people around me who said, hey, these are really good, you should sell them. And so I was like, well, yeah, that makes sense, and it fits with what I'm doing, and that's how it started.
Right, and at some stage you must have thought to yourself, I'd like to introduce hemp as a constituent.
Well, that's a really interesting one, because my cookies, my power cookies they're energy cookies, so they're mainly made from carbohydrates. And the protein market is so big, and as a dietitian, and I'm also a vegetarian, I've been a vegetarian since I was about 12, and I always resisted the protein thing. I just thought it was silly. I was like, people get more than enough protein. They don't need to be, doing protein. But at the same time, there's such a huge market demand. And so I kind of wrestled with that for a long time, because people were like, why don't you make a protein cookie? And it's like, I didn't really know how to make one that was going to taste good. And I also wanted it to be vegan if possible. I didn't want to use dairy or whey protein powders and things. So I caught wind, this is a few years ago now, I caught wind that hemp was going to become legal. And so I got a hold of some hemp protein, because you could still buy it, you just couldn't buy it as food. And so I would get the hemp protein, and I started experimenting. And it was definitely a bit of an evolutionary process, but I thought, well, I'm only going to make a protein cookie. Hemp is really cool. I like that it's so sustainable. It's a real, I call it nature's powerfully, nutritious superfood, because it really is a superfood. And I don't like to throw that term around lightly, because, it gets overused. But hemp is so amazing. It's got all the amino acids. It's high protein, high fiber, naturally gluten-free, naturally low allergenic. It's got the right balance of omega-3s, omega-6s. It tastes good. It's natural. The production of it's way more sustainable than comparative crops. Particularly, obviously dairy is not anywhere on the scale. And so to me, it was like, okay, if I can make this work, then I'll do a protein cookie. So I spent a couple years playing around, and I got my recipe, and it's very simple. It's just date syrup, natural peanut butter, and hemp protein. And it's kind of a nice texture. It tastes good, and I thought, okay, I can sell this. I can do this, because for me and my brand, one of my main brand values is that food's got to be nutritious, but it's also got to taste good and be functional. So you need to be able to eat the thing, and it's got to be palatable. It's got to be easy on your tummy, all that kind of stuff. Because like most protein products on the market, they're not, like, they're really processed, and they've got a lot of additives and processed ingredients. And so they're just not, like, they might look good on paper, but they don't always work in your body, if that makes sense.
And that's the truth of it. Hey, so who are you targeting your protein cookies at?
That's a good question. Well, for people who... Sorry, I'm just eating a blackberry. They're really targeted at what I would call the super foodies. So there's quite a big demand for people who want protein snacks. So for example, people who are going to the gym, or people who are busy, and they're really they're in tune with their bodies, they're in tune with nutrition. They don't want to have all the added sugars or processed ingredients. It's people who just want a natural, healthy, ideally vegan protein snack. So I call them my super foodies, and that can cross over to people who are vegan and who are wanting to choose something that's better for the environment, and it can also cross over to people who are wanting, like, a functional protein snack. So it's a pretty wide market. Like, we've got them ranged in Countdown. I was pretty stoked because Countdown were interested to range them pretty much bang on. Like, I got them ready to market before it became legal. I did all the background work with, obviously, the recipe development, but then I went ahead and got all my packaging designed and just had it ready to go. I'd actually ordered my packaging, so it was quite a big risk for me because it's quite a lot. You gotta, there's minimum order requirements. And so I kind of put my neck out on the line, assuming that the legalization was going to happen. So this was like a year ago. We're coming up to it's just coming up to a year ago. And so I had it all ready to go last July, because that's when we thought the legalization was going to pass, but then it got delayed until November. So essentially, once it got legalized, I was ready to go. I just had to send an email to the bakery and say, right, order the hemp and let's get it started. We got the hemp from New Zealand supplier, New Zealand grown hemp, and we were able to get to the market really quickly. And Countdown, I was talking to them by Christmas last year, and they got us ranged by March of 2019. So yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that does sound pretty cool.